You know, we sometimes have this tendency to think that our imagination is a secondary thing or it's not something to be made into concrete reality. We are open to reality and rules and regulations and the steps that people give us and the systems that they provide. But when it comes to our own imagination, we sometimes put that on the back burner. Has there ever been a time when you felt something in your spirit where you had a vision in your mind, your imagination had this idea, but you didn't act on it because it didn't fit into the systems and the structures that people were telling you that you should fit into? That's definitely been me.
It is not lost on me that I had an incredible privilege of being someone of a sound mind while living in Skid Row. Many of the stories that are being lived in that community are pretty harsh. Many folks are navigating mental disorders and not getting the proper support. One of the reasons that they ended up there is because many of them were abandoned by their families. And in some cases, they felt like they couldn't trust their families, they couldn't get the proper support, they couldn't trust the people around them, which is often a side effect of mental disorder.
I spoke with multiple women at the shelter who were navigating challenging relationship dynamics. Many of them moved out to LA for a man and were left abandoned.
I spoke with an artist, poet, astrologer, performer named Sonia Marie. She's also just an all around beautiful spiritual being. And she shared a story with me about her aunt who ran away from New York to Los Angeles and was missing on Skid Row for 11 days. And Sonia told me that through this journey, she was able to see community. She saw the creativity, and she also witnessed the disconnect that happens when one is navigating mental disorder. As human beings, we are creative, we are receptive to the energy in the atmosphere. And that's especially true for people who are navigating what we call mental disorders. And so that illuminates for me how privileged I was to have had my artistic practice, to have had my spiritual practice in that space, to be in a place where I was grounded in peace and love and didn't feel afraid to walk around the streets, even with the sights and sounds and smells that made me uncomfortable. Even when I was hearing conversations or seeing people partake in activities that pricked my heart. Even in that, even around that, I knew God was there. I knew Spirit was there. I knew that I was divinely guided and protected. And it allowed me to have gratitude for being in this space. I was able to realize that there was no pressure on me to be, do, or have anything. I wasn't pressured by the people living in the shelter or working at the shelter. I wasn't pressured by the environment that I was living in. I was able to just be who I was, where I was. And we don't often realize how much pressure is put on us to do something until we just get a moment to be. I can recognize without blaming myself or anyone else how my imagination landed me in the Skid Row experience. You know, I had that fear that something like that could happen. I felt like if it did happen, I would be able to make it through. And it's really true. Wherever our attention goes, energy flows. Whether it is positive or negative, hopeful or fear-filled, that's what we'll get. And in a way, I was also silently crying out for a break, for rest, for a reset. So much of my life was spent running around trying to hold things together. And I never truly had the opportunity to fall apart and know that I would be able to rebuild and rise from that. And it wasn't until I stepped into this season that I got to witness that. I got to focus on my dreams. I got to clarify my vision. I got to tap into the life that I wanted to build and create for myself. I got to experience God taking care of me. I got to experience all of my needs being met and everything working out in divine order. This season of living in Skid Row taught me just how much the divine loves me. Just how much I don't need to be in the rat race that humans have constructed and manufactured. And for that clarity, I am deeply and eternally grateful. Living in Skid Row taught me just how powerful our imagination is. We get to decide how we use it. And there's no reason to be afraid if we recognize that we've been using it for our destruction or down spiral. Because at any moment, we can choose to think a new thought. We can choose to create a life that we truly desire to live. Thank you for tapping in and tuning in to this sharing of insights and inspirations that I pulled from my season of living in Skid Row. Feel free to share this video with anyone that you know may be impacted by this.